I want to call to order the meeting of the Rutherford County Public Safety Committee for April. It's good to see each and every one of you here this evening. We have several things to discuss, and at this time I'll ask that our Vice Chairman read the approval for our minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Reed. I've read the minutes for March 27th meeting, found everything to be in order, and I make the motion to approve as mailed.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a second. Commissioner Beverly. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, they have been approved. We begin first with item 2, Fire and Rescue Report. I'll ask that Chief Larry Farley will come forward at this time to give that report. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. For the month of March, we ran 6 structure fires, 6 vehicle fires, 288 medical calls, 34 MVA with injuries, 37 without injuries, for a total of 572 calls for the month of March. Year to date, we ran 23 structure fires, 842 medical calls, 85 MVAs with injuries, 114 without injuries, and for a call volume of 1,713 calls year to date. Next sheet is the calls, including all the volunteer departments. 31 structure fires, 47 brush fires, 311 MVAs, 10 of those were extrications, for a total of 2,225 calls. The next sheet is what we send to the codes department for structures that have been damaged. We had 24 smoke alarm installations for the month of March. Next is our fire, arson, and investigation unit report. And then the last sheet is our illegal burn calls. And that concludes my report, and I have 2 other issues to bring up.
Questions on the report?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved. Second. Commissioner James.
If you'll open up.
We have the motion to approve and we have the second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, sir.
Sorry about that. If you'll open up the West Rock item, it's the one before the last one. We have West Rock is a company that's out on 231 out there by close to Rutherford Boulevard, and they had a man get caught in one of the machines and cut his hand off. So they had requested our medical trainer, Paula Todd, come out and teach a first aid class. And she actually ended up teaching the MRR class to them, and they were very impressed. They were, last year at our awards banquet, they also bought the food that we had that made it a lot more enjoyable for people to hang around after the awards show. They're going to do that again this year. They called and asked us if we would put on a fire extinguisher class, and we told them we didn't have the props to do that with. So they went out and spent $10,000, bought a fire extinguisher prop, and donated to us. And what this is a contract just saying that because they give us this training prop, that they will give us 30-day notice, and we have to come out twice a year and teach a fire extinguisher to them, which we do that anyway. But they provide the prop for us because we didn't have one. It also says that we will show up for their Fire Safety Day event, and that's not an issue neither. So Nick said we need to bring this for y'all and let y'all approve that before it's signed. But they've been a very good partner for us. They, like I say, donated food. We have our awards banquet, and we taught a medical class out there, and a lot of them went and got their medical license. So they just their way of showing their appreciation to us.
Will also give us an opportunity to use in other areas too.
Yes, we can use it. We can use it anywhere in Rutherford County to schools or to the county, or anybody wants to have a fire extinguisher class, we can teach that. But that prop they give us would, like I say, would be kind of hard for me to justify that in my budget. So they purchased that for us.
Okay. Questions for the chief?
Question. So, what was the previous arrangement? Was it just loose and now you're trying to make a firm agreement, or?
We didn't have, we'd come out and teach classes, but because they want us to teach a fire extinguisher class, and we didn't have the prop. So they went out and paid $10,000 and bought that prop and donated it to us. And all they're asking is that we just sign this saying we'll come out twice a year. They'll give us 30-day notice, come out and teach the class to their employees.
Mr. James?
How long will this prop last?
I have no idea, but there's two big, large fire extinguishers, and I think they said that each fire extinguisher will do 25 or 27 extinguishments for the training prop. So with two of them, you could probably do close to 60 people in that class, and of course you have to have them refilled. But it's a pretty nice prop.
And if in the future something happens, I see that this agreement has no expiration date. What would need to be done without having to give them $10,000 back if we choose that this is no longer a good deal?
We just get the prop fixed, and if there's something wrong with it, we could get parts for it and replace it.
Mr. Chairman, so if I'm understanding correctly, we can the prop is the most expensive part. If we need to refill it with the contents to continue teaching the class,
yeah,
that's something we could do very easily.
Well, and also with that, Patco, who fills our fire extinguishers, has agreed because of what we're doing for them, they're going to fill them for free.
So the most expensive part is being handled by someone completely outside of the county. Okay.
They will receive something through finance saying that this was a donation coming back to them.
They're just asking us to teach a class, and we didn't have the prop to do it with, so they bought the prop.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
I think you got a question?
Oh, sorry. He made a motion to approve. I second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do you have a second?
Second.
Beverly made the motion.
Okay. Got more discussion back here. I've got more hands going than a teacher in a classroom right now. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, would it be advisable, Chief Farley, to say this training agreement has no expiration date, but can be canceled at any time by either party? Do you think we could add that to it?
We could, but like I say, I think that they've been so good to work with us that if something was come up, we had to reschedule it, I don't think there'd be an issue. They've been more than kind and more than generous with us.
I agree with all that, but something about no expiration date means, infinity, I guess.
Yeah, whatever you think, we'll request it from them.
I don't know, I'm just asking, if from a legal perspective, do you think it would be advisable to put in there can be canceled at any time by either party?
Commissioner Beverly, it's your motion.
I don't see Nick here, but I would yield to him on that, but
well,
I guess
we actually sent this to Nick, and he said it looked good to him. We just need to run it through the commission. That was our first stop.
If it's okay with legal, I'm okay with it.
Nick was fine with it.
Okay.
I'll stand by the motion.
We have the motion Commissioner Beverly, second by Commissioner McMurray. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? We'll do that.
Okay, the next issue is we're talking about raising fees for our building codes and everything, and our fire marshal is going to come up and discuss the fees that he charges.
Thank you, sir. Josh Sanders, our fire marshal.
Good evening, commissioners. We have been working with the planning department and building codes kind of as a countywide effort to look at the cost of fees associated specifically on our end with the fire permits that we issue through the fire marshal's office. Specifically, what we're looking at is updating the fees from a flat rate schedule to that of a more scaled. There's a couple options on your iPad there, but these are not all the permits that we issue. These are the ones that we're just looking at changing. So we have two categories of permits. Construction and operational. So our construction permits, as you can see, deal with the installation and modification of certain fire protection systems and other items that go along with construction or modification of a site. And then you will see there is one operational permit on there, but that again is a development-based permit that's used, as you see, it's a commercial open burning permit. So that's used when a development comes in to clear a lot for a large development, and they have a very large burn pile. And so that's what the commercial open burning permit. So that's why that's the only operational permit on there. But as you can see, if you look at the type of permits that we've currently are looking at updating the fee schedules on, the current flat rate fee associated with that, and the proposed change. So option one, specifically for fire sprinklers and fire alarm systems, we're looking at updating that base fee to $300, which would cover up to a 5,000 square foot footprint of a building. Over 5,000 square foot would be a base fee plus a square footage calculation, as you can see there listed. For a first floor above 5,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet, it'd be 3 cents per square foot. And then that's for the first floor. And then over 10,000 square feet for the first floor goes up to 5 cents. And then as you can see, for a second floor and a third floor. Obviously, the more complex the larger these systems are, the more complex they are to review and to inspect. The other side of this coin is that currently under our flat rate fee schedule, a mom and pop business looking to develop, let's say a 5,000 square foot building that's required to be sprinklered by code, would have to pay the same fee as a 2 million square foot warehouse that has to be sprinklered as well. So there's some offset and obviously the equity of it there. And obviously this would allow for a larger system to be permitted at a higher fee. Fire alarm system permits, just going down the list. Again, a $300 base fee up to 5,000 square feet, and then 2 cents per square foot over 5,000 square feet. The fire extinguishing systems, I would propose leaving at a flat rate of an increase from $150 per system to $250 per system. The reason for that still maintaining a flat rate is those are very kind of self-contained systems that, again, don't have as much involved with the review and inspection side of things. Fire pumps, again, same thing. Those are tied in with fire sprinklers, so we would just add an additional $250 per pump with that fire sprinkler system. Flammable and combustible tanks for installation or removal goes from $150 to $300 per tank. Gate permits, as you can see there, self-explanatory. And then the commercial open burning would be $500 for up to 5 days, and then with requiring a potentially at the fire marshal's discretion what's called an air curtain destructor, which limits the smoke, causes a more promotes a more complete burning without providing the smoke nuisance to the neighborhood, which we deal with quite a bit. The proposed second option for fire sprinkler permits would be a $300 base fee, and then up to a certain amount of heads in that system, which would allow for an increase per 25 heads. Same thing with the fire alarm system, using a device metric there instead of sprinkler heads, and then everything else would be similar to that first option. Any questions that I can answer, I'm happy to. I know I went through that pretty quick, so if anybody's got any questions on any specifics, I'm happy to entertain that.
I have a quick question. The current fee, how long has this been, the current fee been standing? How far back?
The county adopted fire permits in January of '22. We went live with that roughly in March. So we're looking at right about a 12-month window of having permits in place. We collected just under 50 permits last year, being a partial year, and only about $4,500 of permit fees. Just to kind of give you an idea of our the typical inspections that go into any given, any one of these types of permits. So for a fire sprinkler permit, if everything goes perfect, there's at least 6 inspections that have to be done on different days. Usually each going from anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Fire alarms, only about 3. Fire pumps is about 6. Fire extinguisher system requires about 4 inspections, and gates typically 1. Again, that's assuming no failures that we don't have to come back and follow up on. So just kind of give you an idea of the time investment for each of those that we're looking to hopefully work to offset the cost of the services we're providing and improve the effectiveness of our permitting system.
Commissioner Rather?
I have 2 questions. I don't want to assume, but option 1 is your recommendation?
I believe so.
Preferably?
So I believe option 1 would provide a little bit more effective in calculation than having to try to work out the number of heads. We don't have to land, like if there's an odd number of heads for option 2, then we kind of land in a middle ground having to figure out which side of that scale to lean on. Option 1, I believe, would be the most effective and efficient for calculations. Yeah. Frankly, both will end up about the same as far as the permit intake fees. So if using an example of approximately a 20,000 square foot assembly building, that was an actual project. I calculated the fees on both. The option 1 was about $1,248. Option 2 is about $1,300. So just utilizing the 2 different methods. So we're looking at about the same amount of fees that would be collected either way.
So my second question, when we initiate this and go live with it, that's something y'all will evaluate every 6 months, every year? Because I'd really, if we started it tomorrow, I would like in a year to find out what those numbers actually look like. Are we charging enough? Are we charging too? I don't think we could ever charge too much. But I was just wondering if you have a plan to look and compare and contrast some numbers from last year to this year and moving forward.
Absolutely, sir. So it is part of my job to continue to monitor this permitting program. In December of this past year, I provided the Public Safety Committee and the Commission to date, as from initiation date to December of 22, of where that permitting process was. I'll continue to provide that, and I'll obviously internally continue to evaluate the effectiveness of our fees and how that's looking from an outgoing expenses to an incoming revenue standpoint. Absolutely.
Commissioners, let me explain something, and I think y'all are maybe familiar with this. This morning, we were involved with the Planning Commission, and for the past I think last 2 weeks or better, they've been involved looking at the planning and building codes fees at the request of Public Works and the mayor, and what we needed to look at those as far as possibly increasing those fees. And with those, they had asked our fire marshal to also be involved with that too, and looking at those fees also. And that's how we are involved in this right now. This is also part of those same fees, our county fees and what we charge and what we go there. So this morning, we went through all of these, and that has gone through Planning Commission, sending it on to Public Works. So Public Works will be looking at those. I know what they presented this morning, and some of the commissioners that were sitting on planning, they seem to think that the Public Works may add some more to it or whatever, but that is why the fire marshal is before you this evening, because they felt like this committee should be the one to see what's coming out of here, and that's what we're looking at these tonight, and that's why he's here.
Josh, will this new fee schedule cover your cost?
No, sir, I don't believe it will. The challenge that we have from permits is a volume. So our permits are largely focused, if not entirely, on commercial developments. And so, as you know, Commissioner, from the Planning Commission, we don't see a tremendous amount of commercial yet. It's growing, and I've seen more commercial now than I ever have in my time with the county. So I anticipate that those figures will continue to increase. Right now, just the number of, we would probably, now, I'm sure there's a way that we could recoup all the costs of the fire marshal's office and the permitting, but I'm not sure that that would be a palatable number for the development community. But I do believe that we can begin to close some of that gap with a new fee schedule while continuing to evaluate those permits for adjustments needed, especially if we find that we're having tremendous more time investment in certain areas, certain permits, certain systems that we can then adjust those as necessary. But at this time, I don't anticipate that. We're certainly not covering costs now. This would help us get closer to that, but we're still looking at a little ways out for being able to do that.
Just to follow up on Commissioner Rather's comments, I would suggest that you continue to monitor that, and at some point in time, as a commissioner, I would expect those fees to be revenue neutral. So make sure that you come back with us as to how the county stands as far as those permit fees. I would expect at some point in time that they would be revenue neutral, okay?
Absolutely. That's certainly our goal as well. We'll do.
Well, if I can ask, because I'd like to, before we try to raise the fees, find out what the number is to be revenue neutral like that. I'd like to see those numbers before we try to approve fees, because it feels in 12 months you come back to us wanting to double the fees. Next year, you could, another 12 months, could try to double again. And I mean, each year after year after year. I'd like to just kind of get to the end game and not constantly fight the fight over and over. I'd like to see what the numbers really would be. It gives me pause with the scare of every year having to do something else. And I'd like to fine tune it better.
We can certainly look at what those numbers might be.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
This reminds me of when we were dealing with what we were sending up to the state about development and how we did a flat rate, but Commissioner Cush on the floor made a very valid point. The doghouse would pay as much as the mansion, and that's not really equitable. And I think option one provides for a little bit more equity among everyone developing. It's based on the square foot. It's pretty arbitrary versus the number of heads, and it gives us a foundation to increase if we do have to do that in the future. But Mr. Chairman, I yield to some experience here. I think we're trying to get this in before we start looking at the budget for next year, right? This is the reason we're doing this today, is to give us a foundation for the budget. Would it potentially set us behind if this was tabled? Then we kind of need to look at this now to get it to the commission in May, correct? That was my question.
Where we're working with these, we're going to bring these fees. I know planning is going before Public Works, and then from Public Works it goes to the full commission. And then from there, that becomes the established fees. That direction. This is what they had hoped with these two.
I guess I would say let's look at doing something tonight, but once we get that revenue neutral, when this is reevaluated, because it will continue to be reevaluated, even if you were to give us a revenue neutral number tonight.
Absolutely.
We will have to reevaluate in 12 months because revenue neutral could change. But when we do come back, we have a better idea of what our end goal is and how we're going to accomplish that, but we have to do something tonight.
Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion
Okay.
that we go with the fire marshal's proposed option one schedule as it relates to permit fees.
I'll second that.
Second. Further discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
No.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Beverly,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
We'll send that on. Okay, before you step down, I've got something I want to give to the committee. Commissioners, we have received communication this week. There's been communication between the Kittrell Volunteer Board and Chief Farley here concerning the operation out that way. As of last Monday evening, I believe what it was, said conversation between the Kittrell Board of Directors voted last Monday they would officially shut down operations as of May 1st, 2023. And as of that time, we've received several communications between them, between what's doing with the department and what their plans are and what their wishes are. And what we have here an email from their president, Mr. Joey P., and the chief. They have talked back and forth of what they want to do and how they want to do it. He says within this letter, thanks for your help. I apologize for the delay in response to you. As I mentioned in an earlier email, I will work with you to transfer the utilities to the county's name. As I also mentioned, currently the ball field shares the water meter with the fire department. It also shares the septic system with the fire hall. It is our understanding that they are separately metered for any and all of their electric services and share nothing with the fire department on that front. And they also give us the phone number of those who are operating the ball field so that we can help and continue that service working with those people out there in Kittrell, doing the best that we can as well too. Also, it states in here that you can take this as a notice that you will not need to make a budget request on the behalf of the Kittrell Volunteer Fire Department for next fiscal year. We had hoped to keep things going for a while, but the lack of volunteers really sealed our fate, necessitating more rapid wind down. If I can help in any other ways, please let me know. So since that time that we've received these notices, the chief has been talking back and forth. They are in the process of removing some of the things, selling things for some purposes that they're trying to do with their 501(c). The county is taking property that belongs to the county at this time and moving that out or keeping whatever we have to. And I'll let the chief explain where we're going from there, where we are now in the process of helping, where we're going to place full-time firemen within that department and have them available out there in the Kittrell area. So, Chief, if you would explain some of that.
Talking with Mr. Joey P. and Joe Barrett, who's under the direction of the board, is liquidating some of their assets. What they've explained to me is they want to close out their 501(c), take the money from their department. They've sold a pumper tanker truck and some other items. They want to take that money and purchase fire hydrants to put out in the community. When I got notice that they were shutting down, I think last Friday, they had sent an email to all their, I think they had 3 or 4 volunteers left. They sent an email to them, asked them to turn their gear in and radios and stuff in, that they were shutting down. That would have been this last Friday, so I corresponded with Mr. P., asked him that since they were shutting down and closing operations, we would like to move in the old building that they had and set up some beds and put full-time people in there, because without that, they wouldn't have any coverage out there. And Mr. Joey P. agreed to that. And so we put some beds and furniture out there Friday night, and then Saturday, our B shift went out there and unloaded some things, and we put a refrigerator and a washer dryer out there for them to be able to take care of things. And so we're gonna man that station. We got full-time coverage in Kittrell right now until the new station opens, and then we'll move into the new station. And that we're about a month, I think less than a month out going to the new Kittrell station. So, and then we'll take the old Kittrell building and we'll use it as a training facility, because years ago, Kittrell got a grant from Chris Houston to build a training facility out there. It's with a tower and buildings and stuff. And so our rookie class spent a lot of time out there. So we'll go back in, and once they liquidate all their hose and a lot of things they want to get rid of, we'll go back in there and kind of fix some things up and fix that up as a classroom, and then also have our live training out there and a classroom out there. I've already reached out to the lady over the ball club and told her that, if they would just maintain that they didn't have any leaks or any issues. I said, I'm not going to worry about the water bill because I don't think it would be that much. It's a seasonal thing, and they're only out there 3 or 4 hours per night, so we just have to see how that goes. But I told her I'd work with her any way we could. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you may have any.
Not so much a question. I just want to just take a second and thank the Kitchener volunteers, both present and past, for the years and years of dedicated service that they provided. And it's sad to see them go. I'm glad that we're at a point where we're able to man the station and go, and I know well whether that's kind of what was the final push, the volunteer bases on them, and then us coming through and going county-wide. But I want to at least make sure we pay the respects and say thank you for the many years and many people that are there. And I hope that your department will welcome any volunteers from that department to stay and help as they can fit in and work through.
Well, we've already got one, and I had another one reach out, say he's interested in joining, so any of them want to join, it's be perfectly fine with us. I would like to add that during this whole process that Mr. Joey P. and Mr. Joe Barrett have been very professional and very courteous, and I appreciate their cooperation very much.
We did want to bring you this information because they had sent this statement or this request that they were discontinuing the department as of May 1st. So we wanted to make sure that this committee knew what was happening there and what was going on. So we brought this to you tonight. Also, as I look at our committee right here, the majority of you were Friday part of the group that was out there for the graduation of our first class, graduation class of firefighters. And we had it was something to see, and we appreciate the hard work those graduates put in. We watched a slide presentation of it, and I don't know about the rest of the commissioners, but I got tired just watching the slides from what they did and the training they went through and how much they did go through. It was something to see of what we can expect from these young men that did that. I think we had, what, 18?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we had a good showing from Public Safety Committee, too, at the come to support us.
So it was a good day to see all of that and see them come across and get their certification, to get their badge and their helmet shield, and to take the oath to be a firefighter.
They actually did over 620 hours of training. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, most of the public safety was there, but Wayne Irvin was there, and was there another commissioner that wasn't on public safety there? I want to recognize them. I appreciate them showing up and showing their support.
Good day.
Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
That was just a FYI. We don't have to do anything with that information that you just gave us.
No, it's just totally for information. I had checked it through legal, and that's what they said, since they had made the request that they were shutting down, that we don't have to do anything from there. Okay, we'll move now to the Sheriff's Office report. I believe we've got Deputy Chief Steve Smith.
Thank you, Chairman.
I think you've got about 5 amendments.
Yes, sir. The population for the inmates this afternoon was 709. To cover our tornado security, we had officers working 1,220 hours. There's a total of $41,760 in overtime. Tomorrow, we're participating in the Rutherford County Emergency Communications District for 911 job fair at the 911 office on Fortress Drive. It's from 9 o'clock to 12. Hopefully recruit some good dispatchers. That's my in-rate report.
You have the report there before you on your iPad, and you've heard some of these extra things. Any questions for the chief?
Motion to approve.
Move to approve. Commissioner Beverly, second. Commissioner James. James raised his hand. I recognized him. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Your report is approved.
Thank you. The first amendment is from the jail. This amendment is to take funds from the guards' salaries to place money into overtime line item and other supplies and materials. Requesting to take $160,000 from from guard salaries and place $150,000 in overtime and $10,000 in other supplies and materials. You may do them all the same.
No, we'll do one at a time.
Okay.
You got 5 there,
Yes,
and I
sir.
think we'll just do one at a time.
Okay.
Everyone found that one? We have a motion.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Sereno, second. Commissioner Oliver, call the roll.
Commissioner Beverly,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Chairman Reed.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The next amendment is to allocate funds awarded to the Rutherford County for Mental Health Patients Transport Grant. We desire to purchase 2 transport vans fully equipped to transport patients utilizing a portion of this funding previously allocated for other contracted services. This is an eligible expense per the mental health transport guidelines, requesting $152,250 from the grant line item and placing it into our motor vehicle line item.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved. Commissioner
Second.
Oliver, second. Commissioner Beverly, please call the roll.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Beverly,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
This amendment is to move funds from other salaries and wages and youth services and place in the overtime line item, requesting $150,000 from other salaries and wages, $40,000 from youth services, and placing the total $190,000 in overtime line item.
I'll entertain a motion or discussion, whichever.
Move to approve.
Move to approve. Commissioner Rather, and second. Commissioner Oliver, please call the roll.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Beverly,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
The next amendment is to take funds from other charges for services and sales of materials and place into the maintenance repair of vehicles, requesting $8,736 from other charges for services, $8,327 from sales of materials, and but the total $17,063 in the maintenance repairs of vehicles.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve. McMurray, second. Beverly. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Beverly,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
This amendment is to recognize a donation that we received, and we would like to place the $200 in other supplies and materials.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve. Commissioner Oliver. I believe we had second over here. Commissioner McMurray. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Beverly,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Mr. Chief Spence, quick question.
Sorry. Yes, sir.
Follow up to the school resource officers, are these, the 4 applicants, they still slated to start on May the 1st?
May 1st, yes, sir, and that would leave us one slot
With one slot?
available. Yes, sir.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Just on the way up here this evening, a question popped for me because I was stuck in traffic and noticing there was a lot of, here in Midtown, a lot of out-of-state, out-of-county tags, a lot of expired tags, a lot of the old sunshine tags that have expired, January 1st. Nobody should be driving around with any of those.
Yes, sir.
With that, what is the protocol for when they're supposed to get these updated, replaced before we ticket or anything? What's
Yes.
y'all's protocol for that?
Same as our tags, they replace them when they expire and when they go out of service, but our men and women are enforcing it when they run across them, on the streets.
It was kind of just one of those things. It's kind of like when you see the old classic VW bug, a canary yellow VW bug, all of a sudden you just see them everywhere.
Yes, sir.
And it's just kind of brought up to the forefront coming in, thinking, wow, traffic's bad, this is bad, and we're at the budget time of the year trying to crunch for numbers and look for things, and you start seeing that. And just wondering what the protocol is, how long do they have, what kind of window do they have when they move here to replace to get those updated? Is it 30 days, 90 days?
30 days. We
30
change
days?
your residencies, 30 days to change your address and your car tags.
Okay. It's just finding, just info hunting for it.
Yes, sir. I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. PAWS Report. Good evening, sir. Director Michael Gregory.
For the month of March, we had 401 animals enter the shelter. We had a euthanasia percentage of 3.4%. Our live release rate for our dogs was 92.2%, cats were 98.4%, and overall 95.4%. Our officers completed out 1,178 calls for the month, traveling a little over 8,600 miles. Fiscal year to date, we've had 3,448 animals into the shelter, a euthanasia rate of 3.8%. Our live release rate was 93.9%. Officers have completed 11,090 calls, traveling 80,432 miles. For our rabies and bite exposure report, again, that goes by calendar year. For the month of March, we had 36 bites. 1 was tested, it came back negative. We had 9 other exposures. None of those were sent for testing. And thus far, we've not had a positive rabies test in Rutherford County this calendar year. The last page of the report is just the graph that I give you all so you can see the visual of the live intake versus euthanasia and other outcomes. And that is my report, sir.
Questions on the report? Commissioner James.
Just one question. I'm wondering how far, because a couple months ago we discovered the backlog for surrenders. How far into that are you now? Are you catching up to it? Or?
We are taking them in as we're having animals come out. We've been able to pull in several appointments, but there is still a backlog there. A lot of it depends on what type of animal it is as well. If it's an animal that I can move through quickly, it's getting in as that to try to alleviate that backlog, but there is still a backlog. They're still not going out the front door very quickly.
And what's the current, I guess I should, for lack of better phrasing, turnover rate as far as holding them? How many days they hold on average before they get adopted out?
I do not know what our length of stay is as of today. There's some animals that have been on the floor for a while. We did have some animals that came in. We had a big adoption event a week ago Saturday that we saw several adoptions come in, so that we were able to kind of build up for that adoption event. Then we were able to bring in some animals after that adoption event. But there's still a backlog when it comes to the animals. They're just not moving out the door very quickly. And that's not just us, that's everywhere. Transports to animals for other shelters has basically dried up. Rescues are full. They're not accepting anything. It's just everybody is just in a real rut when it comes to animals right now across the country.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve. A second, Commissioner Sereno. Yes, sir. Question? Commissioner, is your mic on?
It is now. So, kind of hypothetical, not hypothetical.
Okay.
If a guy has a trained attack dog that's trained to maim you and possibly kill you, are there requirements for that homeowner as I think about the sheriff's office going out there because of an alarm, or the fire department, or EMS, or a neighbor, or Amazon, or the post guy? Is there a requirement to post that there is an attack dog, and what's the requirements for how many feet down the driveway it has to be posted, or how big the sign should be?
Not that I'm aware of. Let me do some research on that and get back with you. I don't believe there's any ordinance in the law, but I don't want to say that definitively without going back and reviewing my law book. That's the first time I've had that question in almost 20 years. So let me review that just to be sure, but I'm not aware of one. But again, I want to double check that.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk.
Yes, sir.
Other questions? All those in favor of approving the report, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Report is approved. I believe you have an amendment, do you?
Yes, sir. This is moving money within our budget. We're going to be short on our utilities this year, so it's moving money, $10,000 from veterinary services over to our utility line item.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion to approve. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Beverly,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
OSHA report. Director Ed Elam, good to see you tonight.
Good to see you, Commissioners. Good evening. So, for our OSHA report, incident frequency for the month of March 2023, you have a total of 22. Year to date, you have 71. OSHA log summary total recordables, you have 44. Lost day claims, you have 6. Restricted day claims, you have 29. Other recordables, you have 10. Next page. Again, you see for 2021, 49, 2022, 46, 2023, 71. On the next third page, you have on-the-job injury incurred dollars. For 2021, you have 190,000, 2022, 160,000, 2023, 268,000. And then on the last page, cause of injuries, the Board of Education had 14, County General had 8, Highway had 0. In the County Journal, the Sheriff's Department had 2, EMS had 2, Fire and Rescue had 4, for the total of 8. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Elam, I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir. Commissioner James?
On the two bar graphs here that you have from 21 to 23, there's such a large jump in 23. I'm wondering, and I'm assuming, if the years prior are reflecting because of the COVID years, or if it's something bigger is happening on us.
Well, part of it is COVID. Part of it is better reporting. We meet on a regular basis with the schools and other departments, just trying to make sure that the claims are reported in a timely manner. And then, and sometimes you can have a higher claims, but they're lower incurred dollars. This particular year, you have a higher incurred dollars and claims. And also, you know, we've recognized this uptick for a while, and I think I mentioned last month also, I have our safety coordinator, Susan Thompson, who is one class away from getting certified to teach our OSHA 10 classes, to go out to different schools, different facilities, maintenance facilities, stuff like that. to allow us better training for those employees and hopefully reduce some of these. But what I will tell you, in comparison to the state and their incident rates and numbers, we're quite a bit lower than as far as the state rankings. We're better than average.
I still like to do better. The
agree.
graph looks like a runaway starting to occur. If we don't rein it in,
you
we'll get in trouble real quick.
Yes, sir. You and me both.
Other questions or a motion?
I'd like to be at 0, to be honest with you, but
I move to approve the report.
Second.
Have the motion to approve. Commissioner James, second. Commissioner Beverly. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I told y'all last meeting, somebody's going to have to wave up here. You know, we put in a monitor up here that's supposed to be where I can hear. And we started trying it this morning, and I've got it up here tonight. The only problem is like sitting in a cave. I've got an echo now. So I've got 2 voices going here, and then I've got whatever I've got out here. So we're still working on it. That our report is approved.
thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, Recovery Court report. Hi. Could you give us your name?
Janet Mattingly, Clinical Director with Recovery Court, here in place of Ms. Ricks. Good evening, and I believe everyone has a copy of their report for the month of March. We have 168 current participants, 20 new participants. We had 5 graduates and 2 terminations. Any questions on the report?
Mr. Chairman,
There you go.
quick question. I was just curious, what's the difference between participants and current participants?
What page is?
On the first page are current activities. You have participants 175, but then you have current participants 168. And I was just curious about the differentiation there.
Yes, I believe the I can't say the word, but anyway. The participants, 175, I think that includes some that are maybe at DC4, which is drug court. They are participants, but they are at another long-term program, like Morgan County Recovery Court. They just needed a higher level of care. So we do monitor them as far as getting feedback from the programs they're participating in, but they aren't in-house, so to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Other questions?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Report is approved. Right. Probation report. Oh,
Good evening.
Phillips is the director.
All right, for the month of March, we closed out 194 cases, which was equivalent for 171 individuals. We currently supervise 1,203 active cases on probation. In our programs for the month of March, we had 79 individuals in our programs. 28 individuals successfully complete that specific program, and we had 3 individuals that were unsuccessfully discharged from their program. In regards to our olive branch, we did assist 5 people that were on probation. 4 out of those 5 individuals were suffering from homelessness. I also wanted to note, too, that we did receive some donations from EMS. We received some Walmart clothing racks that they were no longer using, so we appreciate that very much. With our 10 Rocks program, right now we have 20 individuals that have actively entered the program. We have referrals equaling 8 individuals that have been accepted into the program but are pending their court date. In regards to our revenue versus our expenditures, that was a difference of $154,316.07. For the month of March, we turned over $20,734 in probation fees to the clerks to be collected in payment agreements. And for the month of March, those that failed to enter payment agreements, their probation fees equaled out to be $5,977. So far this fiscal year, we've turned over $94,712.50 to the clerk's office to be collected on payment agreements, and so far this fiscal year, $54,148.50 are probation fees of individuals that have not entered a payment agreement with the clerk's department. And right now, we have 11 individuals that have been deemed indigent by the court. And that would be my report.
Questions on the report?
Move to approve.
Motion
Second.
to approve. Second. Commissioner Oliver. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, report is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Correction Work Center. Superintendent William Cope.
Good afternoon. First thing on our report is our monthly meeting minutes for the month of April. Next is our work release program statistics. Everything's going really well with that. Our yearly activity report, population staying around the same, which is good for us because that allows us to put more people out cleaning the highways. Next is March 2023, total trash collected on county and state routes. County roads, county trash collected 9,865 pounds. State routes, 814 bags. Then our March 2023 monthly worker report shows a total combined savings of $80,792 using inmate labor. And that is my report.
Questions on the report?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Commissioner Sereno. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the report is approved. I believe you have a letter?
Yeah, this letter is just kind of interesting. Working with the Warden Exchange Program over the past few months, I've met a lot of wardens throughout the United States, and one who has become a mentor is a retired warden out of Rikers Island up in New York, and he turned us on to this publication, and we'll be actually putting it on our when we get the state laptops that they're providing us with for our population. It's a publication called The Loop, and it's written and published by current and former inmates all over the United States, and it's just a really uplifting, positive publication, and we are their first partner in the state of Tennessee. So I just thought that was really interesting. We always try to be firsts in our line of work, and just another first for us in Rutherford County.
Superintendent Cope, how is the loop disseminated in their library or?
No, we put it in every housing unit. So they provide us with free copies of it, and pretty soon, like I was saying, the state's going to be providing tablets for education, and so it'll come through that in the future. But currently, they're sending us free paper copies, and we're putting them in all the housing units.
I think that's really good, and it speaks real well of what you all do out there and whatever. And plus, you being a national award winner that I noticed recently. Every time I pick up Facebook, you've got another certificate in your hand.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you noticing. I don't have Facebook, but I got several calls over the past week. So
congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Juvenile detention. Director Lynn Duke.
Good evening. Before you, you have our monthly report for the month of March. I would like to point out that this morning we did get the $3,500 from Madison County. So at this point, we're just waiting to get our check from Giles County. We don't suspect that that will be an issue. If there are any specific questions regarding the rest of the report, I will happily answer them. And I have a few additional items in addition to this report. As discussed last month, I have brought both February and March's meeting notes or minutes from our board, and I can answer questions about those also if necessary. And the two other items I probably need to take separately because I suspect there'll be questions about them.
Questions upon the report?
Is that accurate as far as males and females booked under Rutherford County, 0 and 0?
Yes, now, just this weekend, we did have two young ladies that spent some time with us. That's the first time we've had females in quite some time.
Commissioners, you're also seeing, as Director Duke has shown us, the minutes from the board meetings in there too. And this is giving you some idea of what the board is discussing and what they have going on. Let's get your report approved first. Need a motion to approve the report.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion approved.
Second.
Second over here, Commissioner Sereno. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report is approved. Now you can go into those other two items I believe you have.
The next thing you should have in front of you is a contract for a PREA audit, and PREA stands for Prison Rape Elimination Act. It is a federal law that we are required to cooperate with. We do them every 3 years. This particular auditor is the same auditor that we used 3 years ago. He is very reasonable with his auditor fees. I have seen some fees that are twice this amount. He lives in Alabama, so he can generally get his on-site items done in one day, and then the remainder of what is required we usually do online. So I'm hoping for this to move forward, be approved, so that we can go ahead and get him scheduled. The Juvenile Detention Center Board approved this contract, and his fee is $5,500.
So you're asking for the, for us to go ahead and approve for the audit contract?
Yes, please.
Comments or a motion?
And you said you've used this individual before, is that correct?
Yes, we did. 3 years ago, we used him. That was our second PREA monitoring, and we would like to use him again.
Ms. Duke, is this in your budget?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Chairman, how often do we do these?
Every 3 years.
And fairly consistent from last 3 years ago when what he charged?
I'm not going to swear to it, but I believe it was $3,500. But I have seen, as I said, that there are some auditors that are charging $10,000.
Can you save me some digging from your last minutes and tell me what your committee's questions had, some of the things they brought up?
Regarding this contract?
When they were going over it?
I think basically just the questions that y'all have asked. They wanted to know what our relationship was like. The last time he came through and audited, we discussed that he was basically local. I think he lives in Birmingham. They didn't really ask anything beyond the price, our relationship with him. I can tell you that if this does move forward, we are hoping to get the audit conducted mid-August.
Contract been approved by county attorney?
Yes, it has.
Very good, thank you.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved. Commissioner Oliver, second by Commissioner Beverly. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Beverly?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver?
Aye.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Excuse me. The last thing that you should have are 2 separate MOUs with the Rutherford County Board of Education as they pertain to educational services that we provide in conjunction with the BOE. The first one, well, I don't know if it's the first one, but one of them that you have is for basic education services, and the board, the Juvenile Detention Center Board, didn't have any issues with this particular MOU or its wording, and county attorney was there at this meeting. The second one is for supplemental educational services. And the issue that was brought up regarding this particular MOU was on page 3. There is a section that is titled Insurance. And there was some questions regarding if this particular section is necessary or needed. I've been in discussions, obviously, during that meeting and since that time with Nick Christensen, and if you he is continuing to review, but if we could keep this moving through the committee process, that would be helpful to the Board of Education. So if we could pass this continued, again, subject to his review and approval, he will have time to get the wording on the supplemental educational services MOU to his liking, and then we can keep the Board of Education on track with their meeting schedule, because part of this money is grant money and they need to have it solidified by a certain date. And I hope that is a good enough explanation.
But basically, it's not ready, but we need to go ahead and keep moving it forward, give them time to get it ready.
The basic education services is good. The supplemental educational services, I think that the county attorney and the Board of Education attorney are still working on the language in that section. The ideas and the concept aren't a problem. They just want to make sure that the language is agreeable. One of the board members that initially brought it up was asking if it's really even necessary because we're part of the same basic government body, and then they got off into the weeds. So Nick wanted a minute to take a good look at it. I suspect it will either remain as is or be removed altogether, but I may be oversimplifying it. These are contracts that we have had with Rutherford County Board of Education for many years. This particular clause has been in there for several years, and it was only brought up and discussed at our last JDC board meeting. And these had been reviewed by the county attorney's office prior to that.
I got to say, I feel a little uneasy having something not completed with the understanding that it will be, as you know, the wording will get finalized after, when we have no say after that point.
We still have to go through budget and finance and then again through the full commission. So there's a couple more times where there will be eyes on it, and Nick will have an opportunity to keep us on schedule as opposed to falling behind with the grant scheduling.
Yes, but we're here now.
Yes.
Not to be blunt. I would like to, I would prefer to separate the two, but I have that uneasy feeling. But
okay.
It's dealing with contracts.
Other comments?
Question. So you say this has been here, the current commission, board, juvenile detention, have a challenge with it, and what are the challenges they're having since it's been here previously?
So it's specifically with the supplemental educational services and only with the the section
on
regarding insurance.
Right.
The board member wanted to make sure that this section on insurance was, one, necessary, and if it isn't necessary, obviously she would like for that to be removed. And then if it is necessary, to perhaps tweak the wording just a little bit, because it is two Rutherford County departments or agencies, and it seemed to be something that perhaps might not be necessary to be in the contract to begin with.
Commissioners, if we could, let's do these separately, not together.
Yeah.
And I'll go first with the basic education services. Do we have a motion on that?
Well, I would, as you're suggesting, move to separate them and approve the basic education services.
You have that motion.
Second.
Have a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Beverly, Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now we'll do for the second one, supplemental education services.
You know, my question really, I wasn't really clear on your response. I'm trying to figure out, okay, you said somebody is uncomfortable with the language here that has always been in this contract. And so I guess I'm just trying to figure out what language.
What she stated was that as she read it, she believed that it was saying that the Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center would be the person or agency that would be required to have this insurance, not Rutherford County government, and she asked if Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center had a insurance policy in place, which we do not. Now, Rutherford County government most likely covers it, but she was concerned that it specifically was stating that this department was being required to have that insurance.
Mr. Rather?
Chairman, we've, over the last 5 years, we've looked back at different documents and figured out there was something in there that should be different from 20 years ago or 10 or whatever. I agree with Commissioner James. I want to do this separately. But in order to comply with grant deadlines and whatever, I would like to make the motion to approve this contingent upon our legal department approving it, and if possible, maybe your board approve it if time permits.
We do meet the second Monday of each month. I don't know if it will be before Budget and Finance or not, but they passed it contingent to him taking...
So they did the same
Yes.
thing?
Yes.
So my motion is to approve it contingent upon legal being okay with it and approving it themselves.
If I may
have a
ask
second,
him, excuse me.
and now we'll have discussion.
If I may ask him to amend his motion to kind of put a timeline on there before it gets to the Budget Committee, so that we're not passing it to another committee or to the full commission with the same thing that's on consent agenda, and then it just goes straight through. I'd like to make sure we have a finish date on that. Commissioner Rather, would you so amend your motion?
Well, if we approve it tonight, when does the budget meet again? Next week. So they'll have it. Based on what we approve tonight, Nick, our legal department, should be able to have this worked out the next day or two, move it to budget, and we go on. Now, if that needs to be amendment, I'm fine with that, but I think we've got enough time here.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
With Nick not being here, it's also budgets. There's a lot going on within our county government. I'd like to point out that with the contingency that it's approved by legal before it gets to Budget and Finance, if we make it contingent on approval with legal before it gets to the commission, every member who sits on this committee and Budget and Finance will have one final stay at it. Before then, it's just, with Nick not being here, we don't know what his schedule looks like, and I don't really want to speak for him. It still allows the same people to have the same say if it's done contingent at the commission level, not just at budget.
I don't know if this helps or makes it muddier, but we did talk about, he said, he basically gave me two options. He said, you can take it tonight, have the discussion that we're having, or you can wait a month. And I said, I prefer to go ahead and take it tonight to see if we can stay on track with the timeline. So he knew that I was going to present it tonight, but he also understood, I think, that there might potentially be questions that he wouldn't be here to answer. But I'm rolling the dice and just see what's going to happen.
I'm wary of the possibility, open liability that we could be walking ourselves into and the unknown of what that is yet. So I'm just to move it forward just concerns me. And the more we discuss, the more I kind of get held back on that concept, even though I can appreciate Commissioner's motion for this.
Director, one more question. This supplemental contract, how long has that document been used by JDC?
At least 2 years, probably, potentially even 4 or more.
Right. And how many claims or how much liability have you had to pay out because of that language that's already been approved for years?
There hasn't been any.
Because you don't have insurance.
Correct.
So it's on the county. I agree with the board members' concern about that language, but at the same time, it's Rutherford County's on the hook. And
mostly, and remember, Commissioner, you probably voted for it before.
probably a couple of times.
I think exactly what you're saying there, and we have the chairman of the Budget Committee sitting back here. He's well aware right now of what's coming his way and what's doing there, so we are in that extra. Further discussion?
I mean, it clearly says that the provider shall provide the insurance. They're concerned that the detention center has to provide the insurance when it says the provider does, which the provider is the Board of Education.
The Board of Education has the Juvenile Detention Center employees provide the service. The main question that Nick asked me when we were discussing this was whether or not we transported young people outside of the facility to conduct any of these services, and we don't. Everything takes place in the housing unit. Her question regarding the insurance was that, and as she read it, juvenile detention was the provider, and that the wording stated that the provider should have the insurance, and if that's not what the current situation was, that the wording needed to be changed. And Nick asked that he have an opportunity to review it, but asked that they would move it along, subject to his review and approval, and he's currently doing that. We emailed back and forth this morning at 8:15 and had the discussion as to that I could bring it tonight or I could wait. And again, I told him that I was probably going to take it on tonight so that we could keep the grant deadline in place for the Board of Education.
Madam Secretary, I'm going to ask you to call the roll.
Commissioner Sereno.
Yes.
Commissioner James. Commissioner Rather.
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver.
Aye.
Commissioner Beverly.
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray.
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion carries.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Emergency Services Public Safety Report. Director Chris Clark.
Thank you. I have a couple of items tonight. First is the report that should be on your iPads. I'd like to point out that a lot of our focus this month has been on the response to our tornadoes in Eagleville and Reedville. But I'd like some mentions of that we've been working with our local partners here in Rutherford County, Smyrna, Laverne, Murfreesboro, Rutherford County, law enforcement, fire departments such as that to gather our needs that could help the district with Homeland Security, which will be coming to you next month with a Homeland Security grant approval. There's been some developments in this and some increase in funding, and we had all these entities into our office to comprise a list. Also, I'd like to add that I'd like to thank our county fire department, especially Shift Commander Adam Rose, to assist us in a down tree that was on Lynch Hill, that we were able to get a diesel fuel truck up Lynch Hill to our tower sites. They came in, helped Brian remove that tree out of the way. So what I'm saying is partners helping partners, and that's what makes a huge, big team. Also, our communications center, as you can see the numbers there, they fielded about 5,500 calls there this month. And I'd also like to point out that we just celebrated our National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week. We appreciate all the donors that provided throughout the week for our special friends there in our communication centers. We're very fortunate here in Rutherford County to have such a group of professionals that make sure that we're safe out here every day. And they do an extremely well job, especially, and we're going to touch back on that tornado here in just a little bit. Also, we're set to go live with Text 911. We're hoping to put that information out here for long. So we're gearing up for that as well. Thanks to our ECD, our Emergency Communication District 911, and assisting us in getting that ready. That's my report, and I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions anyone may have?
I have one out of curiosity. The Text 911, hopefully we're going to have that publicized in various forms, because my understanding is you can't send pictures. Everybody's going to want to take a picture of their fire or whatever. So I'm sure y'all working on some kind of media.
We are. We will, and I'm sure that our ECD 911 will assist us in doing that. That will help us publicize and hopefully have one message that goes out for all of our PSAPs to assist us in having that united message that goes out, how we can use this, especially with the hearing impaired, things like that it's going to be monumental for those services.
Director Clark, are we having some FEMA stations set up around the county?
Yes, sir, we are. And that was going to be after I asked for permission to apply for a grant. I was going to approach the tornado response, if that's okay.
Okay, let me go ahead and get a motion on your report.
Second.
Motion approved, have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, report is approved. Okay, sir.
Second, I'd like to request permission to apply for what's called a FEMA Public Assistance Grant. And what that does is allows us, if awarded, we would receive 75% reimbursement back from the federal government concerning the response to our Readable and Eagleville tornado. Basically asking permission to apply for extra money.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve, have a second. Call the roll.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Beverly,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Last but not least, the conversation comes up in our response for our April 1st tornado that struck Eagleville and Readable. Eagleville received an F1 tornado ranked by the National Weather Service, and Readable received an EF2, which encompassed parts of Cannon County as well. At approximately 9:30 the night before, I was on the phone with our PIO to send out some messages over social media to hopefully remind people to take some devices to their bedroom so that they could hear any type of alarm system that may be triggered by a tornado warning. At approximately 1:30 that morning, we received, watching the radar, that was a long night, watching the radar, we had a cell to come through the Marshall and Eagleville area, and it kind of just blossomed. Watching that, received a phone call from the Eagleville fire chief, stated that he was in the closet and that it didn't sound good up there. I started to head into work. And so by the time I got on Highway 99 at Warrior Drive, we determined that we've had damage in Eagleville and this may be a little bit bigger. And so we responded, myself and Brian Rowland responded to the EOC. We had such a quick response to the Eagleville area. We're still waiting on information soon to find out that we were fixing the tornado was actually going through Reedville. It stretched all the way across the county. Eagleville had multiple trees down, structural damage, and power outages. During our response, we learned that Reedville received major damage as well and sent resources for search and rescue. We had a monumental response. I'm going to play a video here in just a second to kind of give you an idea of what transpired. Our sheriff's department, our fire departments, our EMS services, along with our highway department, which I was on the phone at 2 a.m. or at about 1:40 in the morning. I was on Warrior Drive when I received a call from the highway department. Where do you need me? Along with our Middle Tennessee Electric partners, they all went in at the same time. We're very blessed to have those efforts. Our sheriff's department locked that perimeter down, and I'm saying lock it down. They could not get in. Nobody could get in unless they were permitted to get in. This went on for multiple days, almost 2 weeks. We established a volunteer center that was at New Hope Church of Christ, which called me Saturday morning and says, hey, our church is open. Whatever you need, you bring it on. I think they probably didn't realize how much they were going to do. And so we set up that volunteer center, so everybody besides emergency workers had to come through that one point of entry, which the residents of that lived there that was affected got banded with a green band so we could identify them 24 hours a day, that if they wanted to take a breather at 2 a.m. on what used to be their front porch, they could. But anything outside of that green-colored band, whether it's a volunteer band that we attached, or whether it was somebody that did not have a band, they were not allowed in that perimeter. That went on for 2 weeks. I would like to thank the Sheriff's Department for hanging in there, and through the whole thing, our fire departments, our highway department, our solid waste department. Between the highway department and our solid waste, we removed 1,279.6 tons of debris in about 10 days. So I'd like to show you a little video real quick, not enough to hopefully offset this meeting, but I'd like to show you what we were faced.
Car 503, engine 62, heavy rescue 60, paramedic 23, paramedic 4, rescue engine 60, structure collapse 1899 Reedyville Street, cross of North Lassiter Barker Road and Old Woodbury Pike. Respond on Op 3.
Not everybody's tied up, but Old Woodbury Pike from John Bragg into Kennett County needs to be closed immediately for power lines and poles across the road. When you start checking houses on Old Woodbury Pike, there's a lot with structural damage, partial collapses, multiple trees down. On it to the structural collapse, will have to come in off of John Bragg Highway onto Real Street, just past the NW Market. I'll be coming in, I would say something in a few minutes. There's a lot of Kennett County ants already on the scene also.
Middle Tennessee Electric's en route to assist with Reedville Street.
Copy that. You got a truck? I need your manpower. All right, it's going to be a dig out. It's a total collapse of the structure. Just advising, we have multiple structures, heavy damage here. They're going to need to send a couple crews out, whichever utility wants to. Every residence is clear from where you're at all the way to the county line down by the post office. Copy.
Friday, March 31st into Saturday, April 1st was an intense night as seven tornadoes touched down. But note here on the graphic, the tornado that hit in Rutherford County was the same storm that did tremendous damage all the way back into McNairy County, and that one traveled all the way to Hohenwald. And 2 weeks later, this area could still use your help and support. Reedyville was the last area affected by this tornado, and it was an EF2 with top winds at 130 miles an hour as it went through the far east Rutherford along the Rutherford-Cannon County line. And in Eagleville, where the storm came from, they had damage as well with EF1 winds at 110 miles an hour. The people affected by the tornadoes are thankful for the volunteers. Over 2,000 of you checked in and served either by yourself or with a group to help assist with the cleanup. And county officials were extremely busy that Saturday morning and responding quickly in search and rescue efforts. Their partnership with other crews in the community and cross county lines made this for a rapid and quick response.
So to prepare for a disaster, that means we develop relationships. And so over the last few years, we've developed those relationships and provided information of needs in the event of a disaster. So we've worked real well with our utility departments that are here locally. And then also we work with our first responder partners, law enforcement, EMS. And so it's just a phone call away, and we request them and they come, and we already know each other. We have different mutual aid partners as well. You know, Cannon County, you would not know the boundaries there because we worked hand in hand with Cannon County and their officials, their mayor, their emergency management director, Roy Sullivan. We all work really well together, but we developed those relationships prior to this disaster or this event.
And that tornado fell right in the middle of peak season. Here's the data for Middle Tennessee going back to the 1800s, courtesy of Mississippi State University. You can see March through May is our peak season, and April leads with more than 200 tornadoes reported in the last 200 years.
At 9 a.m., we declared a state of emergency, which was sent to the governor and eventually up to D.C. Our solid waste and highway department met in the middle to effectively remove that debris as quickly as possible. And we continue to monitor that area today. We put up electronic signs to assist the sheriff's department and also to our citizens to make sure that they watch out for heavy traffic. One of the things that we did, we had a great, what's called a battle rhythm. We had a good battle rhythm as far as we had set times where we would meet and plan for the next day, and then we'd kick out an incident action plan, which provided the steps we're going to take the next day. That went on for approximately 2 weeks. So in all, Rutherford County received 9 homes that were destroyed, 7 major, 9 minor, and 34 that were impacted. Cannon County received 13 homes destroyed, 9 business destroyed, 15 major damage, 6 minor damage, and 6 affected. And the reason I bring Cannon County's figures into this, we assisted them in debris removal with law enforcement that stood there, fire department. As you saw, we had a big debris pile that was on fire that we elected to pull permits to take those trees and remove them. Currently we have FEMA personnel on the ground in multiple sites. We have disaster recovery centers that are located, one in Cannon County, and we're trying to establish one in Eagleville at this time. If people need assistance, they can dial 1-800-621-3362 for FEMA disaster assistance. We have other meetings that are going along this week concerning the assistance and those affected families and any resources that they may need. But I want to commend all of our public safety. They showed their stuff. Not only one day, for 2 weeks to keep that manpower moving and generating. We have some of the most talented emergency personnel, communication personnel, and we have some tremendous partnerships with the highway department and the debris management and our utilities. And we do appreciate your support. I saw several commissioners inside that perimeter that was there to see the damage, support the citizens that were affected, and we will continue to do that. And we want the citizens to know that it's in Eagleville and Readable, that we have not forgot them. We will still be here when they have questions or needs. That's my report.
Very good report, and it's something to see. I saw it firsthand out there on Mount Pleasant Road. It come down where I live, and it come down through there. In fact, at 1:30, I was out there on that road because I didn't know where else to go. It had already been on top of the house, so I come out and come down, followed one of Brian Gaither's ambulances going down the road. I was so impressed with that they were just primarily driving through the roads and were available if needed. And that was something to there, and they had all the different personnel there, sheriff, fire, everybody was there. And come that fast, because, I mean, it had just literally left us headed towards Readable. In fact, I was standing there by one of the units when they said it's in Readable. We got to head east, and that's what they were talking about. You were there. Commissioner James?
I just want to take a second and commend and thank all the departments that work together, departments, utilities, the volunteers, everybody all together. I mean, that goes without saying. But I wanted to go a little bit of a different step with that. And thank you for your department's ability to correspond and get it all put together, because my district suffered some winds, some shingles, some siding, nothing in comparison with the windstorms. And we're really, but more importantly, we didn't suffer anything. And by what I'm meaning by that was we didn't suffer any loss of public safety. No, the sheriff still made their rounds for us. Solid waste still picked up at the convenience centers. Highway department was still out there doing their presence and getting their roads taken care of. All the departments still came through and were able to maintain. We didn't notice the loss of services because y'all, even though y'all were up there for 2 weeks, and I'm not saying we failed to notice, I'm saying y'all upstepped your game and picked up not just your workload, but took it on, and you, for lack of better phrasing, took the hit like a champ. And from my district, for not having to be pulled into that, we appreciate that, and we recognize and give our thanks that y'all were still able to go that extra mile for us. So that goes right back to the, I'm a logistics guy. That goes right back to the logistics, the planning, the pre-planning. You have your go bag ready to go in case whatever. So as soon as it's done, you clean that bag, you get it ready, and you're ready to go again. And I can recognize that, and I just want to take a moment and say thank you.
Small snapshot of what we were faced. There was 300 radio transmissions that I went through only through fire and EMS. The Sheriff's Department has many, many more. They have stories to tell. This is just a brief snapshot of what transpired these last 2 weeks. And I'm very proud to live in Rutherford County.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, real quick. I did have some people ask me, has the county ever considered tornado sirens? Kind of what, can you give a backstory, a little bit of history on that?
We have. One of the things is we talked about this last year of bringing in our communities, Smyrna, Laverne, Murfreesboro, Rutherford County, Eagleville, and bringing a committee together to determine whether we need sirens, tornado sirens. And the reason, a lot of people don't have a misconception about tornado sirens. They're made for outdoor notifications, not indoor notifications. And so they would be placed on parks, schools, wherever people would congregate outside, soccer fields and things like that. We've identified about 50 locations throughout the county. It's funding and maintenance thereafter. We have an opportunity to go to a mitigation grant, hopefully, after this situation is over, and have a grant to assist in purchasing those tornado sirens. However, I think we need to form a committee to look at the need of that, since we have so many electronic devices now that will notify us in any time and notify them inside the house. However, we don't want anybody caught off guard. So I look forward to probably putting a committee together to entertain the need of tornado sirens.
You've got Alert Rutherford. It'll wake you up fast.
Thank you very much.
Good report. Emergency Medical Services. Director Brian Gaither.
Good evening. For the month of March, we made a total of 3,365 calls. Response time was 7.4 minutes, 181 DOAs for the month. 29 of those were sent for autopsy. We collected $1,066,348. The next page are some in-services and training that we had during the month, and some standbys and events that we covered. The convalescent division did 515 calls. They collected $156,719. The next few pages are some thank you notes and some reports from Lifelight. And then the Trauma Crew of the Quarter is an award that Stonecrest puts out, so I'd like to draw attention to that. Mike Cook and James Peters, they kind of had a unique call that, because they were very diligent with, they had a very positive outcome with that patient, and it was a very difficult situation there. And that's my report.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Beverly. Second, Commissioner James. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, your report is approved. I believe you have a budget amendment.
I do. We're requesting to move $150,000 from paraprofessionals into our part-time line item. This is to help cover some vacancies, positions that we have, FMLA and vacation time. This should get us through the end of the year.
Heard the request. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Approve right here.
Second.
And second over here. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Beverly, Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner James, Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, sir. We now move into other business. We have one item that I need to bring up at that time that we need to take care of. In June, we had already moved our meeting date due to the fact that it was set upon the 23rd of June, which happens to be a commission meeting day where we are to approve our budget. So we moved it at the beginning of the year to the 19th. If any of you saw the news or have read the news in the last day or so, the governor has proclaimed that day as a state holiday for Juneteenth. So that's going to be a state holiday. So we figured we wouldn't have any of the county employees, whatever. We don't know that. That hasn't been finalized through steering or any of that yet. So we're trying to move ahead. So we're trying to find another day besides that 19th date. And we have available to us on the 23rd, which is Friday of that same week. Would that be okay with everyone if we just move it to that day?
I have a conflict.
Have a conflict? What was that other day we? Okay, but the 28th? The 28th's a Wednesday. 28th? Is that 28th okay? We'll just make it the 28th then. Same time, same place, and same group of folks. So we'll just move it down to the 28th then, and that'll work then, unless some of you are going on holiday. All right, we'll move it to that date and see if all of that works there. But thank you, gentlemen. We have covered a whole lot of things. If there's no other business, we are adjourned.